This book was the definition of if you want an easy read, read this. Hey guys, welcome back to Francesca's Books. My name is Francesca, these are my books, and here we talk all things thriller books. And today I've got quite an exciting video. I think this definitely relates to sort of where my head's been at recently, and it is the best 10 popcorn thrillers for when you just need to like zone out and just have like a really nice easy read with a nice plot twist and everything just nicely comes together. Like if you just don't have that much mental energy but like you want to read a thriller book that's still actually really good, not something that's just like, then this video is definitely going to be for you. So for once, there's actually no real updates for me. I have just been cracking on. I'm like pretty much better now, like my voice is still a little bit off, but everything is good. I am actually looking into some jobs as well at the moment, so that is very exciting. So I will remind you before we like dive into the actual recommendations that like if you want to see what I'm reading in real time, you can check out my TikTok, my Instagram, or my Goodreads account, because I post like pretty much immediately after I've read a book, like what I thought of it. So if you want to be like in the know like immediately, then you can check me out there. But obviously booktube is my love. I will always come on and tell you guys about my books, especially like my monthly wrap-ups. I can actually go into so much more detail, so stay tuned. So let's dive in. The very first book on the list is The Couple at Number 9 by Shari LaPena. No, what? The Couple at Number 9 by Claire Douglas, if it was, but it's not. The very first book on the list is The Couple Next Door by Shari LaPena, and I absolutely love this book purely for how easy it was to read. There was like a really minimal character pool, and this book was just like a proper one-day read. So this follows Anne and Marco, who leave their 6-month-old daughter in their house, like in its bedroom, and they go to the neighbour's house for a dinner party, and you're thinking, oh my god. However, they do go and check on her like every 30 minutes, and I'm thinking like, this is a bit of a Madeleine McCann situation. Of course, at midnight when they go back, the baby is not there. It has been kidnapped. We obviously have no idea what's happened at this point, but it's not there. It's not old enough to walk or crawl or anything like that. And yeah, just mayhem unfolds basically. I feel like this book was just so easy to read. Like it was just really, really good. You have everything nicely tied up with a bow about exactly what's happened to the child. My only grievance with this book was the male main character in this couple was honestly like such a donut. Like I don't even have a better word to describe him. He's just an absolute donut. Like, I mean, anyway, next up with something completely different is The Lies I Tell by Julie Clark, and I actually read this on holiday and it was just such a holiday read. Like it's not like set by the beach or anything, but yeah, it was a really, really easy book to read. Also, this book's like super floppy, like super malleable, like soft. I think that's probably the reason I bought it, because like the text isn't actually that big inside. It's one of those where like the text is actually quite small, but anyway, so this follows our main character Meg, who has many identities. She has been through a lot, and she resurfaces as her real persona 10 years later. And then we have another female main character called Kat, who's seeking revenge. Aren't they always? However, she can't really get her head round like who Meg's true target is in like all of this. She's just a bit suspicious by the end. This one definitely didn't disappoint. Our female main character Meg gave big Lana Mize vibes from the My Neff series, so if you like that vibe, you will like this vibe. But I feel like the only thing missing from this book was like a really big plot twist reveal. I think this probably would fall more into psychological suspense than psychological thriller, but it was still really good and I still really enjoyed it. Next up is The Silent Bride by Shalini Boland, and this is one of the only books that I truly have like read cover to cover in one sitting, like not even 24 hours, just like sat down, I'm gonna read a nice book tonight, and just gone. So this follows a woman who walks down the aisle to marry her fiance, and she doesn't recognise him, nor his parents, or any of his family. Like, what would you even do in that situation? I don't even know. So while I don't love all of Shalini Boland's books, some of them are a little bit far-fetched, and I'm not like a through and through lover of the author, but I have to say this book was really, really good, especially when you want something like a popcorn thriller. It was just basically just jam-packed with drama and a really, really easy read, so I would definitely recommend it. So next up is quite a popular psychological thriller, and I definitely would class this as a popcorn thriller, although the topics in it are a little bit more on the serious side. The like pace and how easy it was to read is why I would categorise as popcorn thriller, and it is Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. So this follows Jack and Grace, who just seem like the perfect couple, and everyone's like quite envious of like their lifestyle and their relationship. But there is all these like security cameras around the house. Grace's behaviour is really suspicious, and you find out that she's basically trying to run away from this guy. She's literally trapped in one of the worst relationships ever, like way past domestic abuse, way past domestic violence. She's basically a captive. So you basically cannot root enough for our female main character in this book, and it's basically her escape story. So I think it's quite an easy read as well because there isn't that many characters in it. So of course there's like Jack and Grace are main characters, and then there is like a cast of supporting characters, but I feel like the concept's just quite easy to grasp. I would liken the like style and pace of this to like The Housemaid or What Lies Between Us. Kind of like a combination of those two books, but I do feel like the topic was a bit darker, believe it or not. When I first read this, I feel like it wasn't up there with my favourites, and I just thought, yeah. But then over the last few months, I haven't really been able to stop thinking about it, and I actually really liked it. I think it's just one of those that took a little bit of time to like settle. Next up is The Collective by Alison Galen, and this one's definitely a unique concept and another really easy read. So this follows Camille, who's recently lost her daughter, and she decides to join a group of mums who want to take justice into their own hands. However, they start plotting out all these like revenge plots for like all these children that have been taken away from them too early, but Camille quickly realises she's not sure if she's actually on the side of good or bad in this situation. This one is a little bit of a moral debate as well. This is another one of the only books that I've actually read cover to cover in one sitting because it genuinely was that easy to read. It had like pure feminist rage vibes, which I could just so get on board with. The plot twist in this was also amazing as well. Definitely recommend. So I've tried to keep Frida McFadden's books to a minimum in this video because all of her books would fall into this popcorn thriller category. I have a whole video, I'll pop the little thing up here for you to click on, of all 19 of her books ranked if you want more of that. But the one that I've picked out for this video specifically is Never Lie. I feel like what makes this one of the best popcorn thrillers is like the pacing of it. Like this book doesn't really stop until you're finished. Like there's no like dragging in the middle or anything like that. So this follows a couple who get trapped in a really creepy manor that they were actually going to view with the potential to buy, but they get trapped there in a snowstorm, and yeah, this just definitely changes their opinion of the place. So while our couple's trapped there, our female main character finds these like tapes from a previous psychologist that's lived there in the building, and she's like, what the? And it just kind of goes from there. This one is like a bit more on the spooky side, but it's definitely not a horror. I get asked that all the time. It's not a horror, but there is some more, I don't know, just like creepy vibes as opposed to like some other psychological thrillers. I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and even with all my expertise, I still did not guess the plot twist in this book. I feel like Frida McFadden's so good at that. Like a lot of other authors, I can see the plot twist coming, even if they're like really established, but I think because Frida's plot twists are just so bizarre and so crazy, I never get them. So yeah, definitely recommend Never Lie if you've not read it already. So another really easy to read thriller book is The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins, and I don't know about you guys, but I love this cover as well. I really like this. So this follows Jane, who's a dog walker on like a really wealthy estate, and she's pretty much got no money. She starts like stealing from some of the houses. Like she's really just not in a good place and not had a good life. However, she then one day meets Eddie and everything changes for her. So Jane and Eddie start dating, and they basically have just as many secrets as each other, and everything just kind of starts to unfold. I read this one very quickly. The writing was absolutely brilliant. However, what this was missing was like a really good plot twist. There was some plot twists, but nothing like groundbreaking. This was like a modern adaptation of Jane Eyre, basically, with probably more money, a little bit more scandal, and just like set in the modern day. But this has always stood out to me. I read it like a few years ago now, and I still tend to include this in a lot of like wrap-ups like this because of how easy it just sort of was to read. It kind of has like The Housemaid, Verity vibes, like, you know, like that little bit of, it's a thriller but there is that bit of romance in it, and I think that's quite rare in a thriller book, that it's kind of like an actual mix as opposed to it just being like a thriller with like a really relationship. Next up is a book from an author which I literally love or hate, depending on which book you're gonna put to me. This one is of course a love, and it is Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. This book is basically just everything you could want from a psychological thriller, like everything. So our main character Amber is in a coma. She cannot speak, she cannot move, but she can hear everything. And she basically thinks that her husband might be behind this accident as to why she's in hospital, and since she can hear everything, anyone coming in and out of the room, she can kind of start to piece things together, but also it's told from a dual point of view, so back like before the accident as well, so you get a bit of like background. I just really enjoyed this one. I got to the end and I was like, just everything that you could possibly want as a thriller girl. Like there was no disappointments, the plot twist was amazing, the characters were brilliant, like the way it was paced was fabulous, so I would definitely recommend this one. Next up is No Exit by Taylor Adams, and this is the perfect book to like go into winter reading. It's like set in like a snowstorm, and our female main character gets trapped at a service station because like the roads are just too snowy, like you physically can't get past, so like it's got all the winter vibes. So our female main character is trapped at this service station with 4 other people, and she just like goes outside for a bit of fresh air, like it's all very overwhelming, and she sees a young girl locked in one of their vans. So it has to be one of the people she's trapped with vans, because like they're the only people there. So one of these 4 people that she's trapped with has this girl like locked up, and this is an extremely fast-paced book, so you start getting to like the crux of the problems like quite early on. This also had like the best ending ever, like the most satisfying ending I could ever imagine. I was feeling so tense at the end of this book, like reading the last 10 pages was literally giving me heart palpitations. I was like, please. I don't think this book is like mainstream published. I think this is like a self-published or an indie published version, because it's not the same height and pages and everything like as all my other books. I did get this a few years ago, so it might be now, but if not and you can't get your hands on a copy, it'll definitely be on Kindle. I think it might be on Kindle Unlimited, don't quote me on that, but it could be an ideal Kindle read really. And the last popcorn thriller book that I would definitely recommend, I actually just read this last week, and it was like the first book that I put on this list when thinking about which books to recommend to you guys, and it is Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. So I don't have a physical copy of this because I read it on my Kindle. I bought it in like July's 99p sale, I believe, but this book was the definition of if you want an easy read, read this. So the character pool is quite small, the concept is quite simple to follow, and whilst I've been ill, like it was just a brilliant thing to like just get stuck into. I could follow it really easily, it was just great. So after their mother dies, 3 siblings reunite to try and sort out her estate. Only one of the siblings was even like in touch with the mum and like cared for her, so it's a bit of like a very weird family dynamic at the start of the book. And also of course it is death of a parent, so if that's going to be triggering to you, no one look at me. That is only the start of this book, the very start of this book. So if I can get through it, I don't know, maybe you can too. So whilst they're sorting out her estate, they find this VHS tape that basically incriminates both the dead mum and the dad, who they have no idea where he is, into like this horrendous crime basically. I'm not going to tell you the crime because that's kind of a spoiler, but something really bad, and they have to decide whether they should turn the parents in even though they're not here, because they know the fallout that that would cause across the whole like town, whether to keep quiet, like what to do. Obviously there's 3 of them that know about this now, so they all have different opinions, and that is the basic concept of the book. So you just have like these three main characters. The parents obviously aren't around but are mentioned, and then you have like a couple of people in the town who like get involved, but that is basically the whole book. I think this was just really easy to read. I read The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose by the same author, and this was similar in the fact there wasn't many characters and the plot was quite easy to follow, but I definitely preferred Home is Where the Bodies Are. It was a lot more thriller. I think The Perfect Marriage was a lot more like legal suspense, if that makes sense. So I did see the twist coming, if I'm being honest, but that's what happens with a small character pool, but I did enjoy it and I still would definitely recommend it. So these are the 10 books I would recommend if you want like a really easy to read popcorn thriller that still like has a decent plot and decent characters. Some of these authors as well, it might be worth checking out some of their other books, because they kind of fall into the same category most of the time. Like if you liked whichever one of these, maybe check out some of the other authors' work. Now that I'm back and definitely much better, is anything specific you want to see from me, like let me know in the comments. I'm gonna do another reading vlog very soon, but apart from that, it is always just my recommendations, so let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I cannot wait to see you next time.